Everything we see is temporary. Stars burn out, galaxies drift apart. But there's a question science can't quite answer. If the universe ends, does that mean you do too? Or were you always meant for something beyond? Welcome to the Word and the Universe. Today, we'll explore. The universe will end, but what comes after? The end begins. All things that begin must end. That is the law written into every atom, every star, every breath. Science calls it entropy, the gradual winding down of energy, the slow fade of order into chaos. A universe once bursting with light and motion, now heading, inevitably, towards stillness. To physicists, this is the heat death, the quiet, cold finale of everything, a time when stars stop burning, galaxies drift apart, black holes evaporate, and in the farthest future imaginable, even light itself flickers out. As Nobel Prize-winning physicist Steven Weinberg once said, "The more the universe seems comprehensible, the more it also seems pointless." But perhaps it is not the universe that is pointless, but our understanding of it that remains partial. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once observed that life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom, an echo, perhaps, of entropy's dark promise, that time ends not in chaos, but in cold, unmoving stillness. And yet across cultures and centuries, the human heart has rebelled against this fate. We write poetry to protest the silence. We form meaning in the shadow of cosmic indifference. And in doing so, we hint at something more. Long before science spoke of thermodynamics, the Bible whispered a different truth. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Matthew 24:35. Even Scripture foresaw the end of the heavens, not as tragedy, but as transition, not as a vanishing, but a revealing. Because if there is an end to the universe, then perhaps, just perhaps, there is something after it. If entropy marks the decay of all things, then faith, in its boldest form, suggests that decay is not the last note, but rather the key change before the final, eternal crescendo. The science of the end. Modern cosmology describes a universe in decline. As space expands, galaxies grow more distant. Stars exhaust their fuel, entropy increases, and the cosmos marches toward what scientists call thermodynamic equilibrium, a state where nothing more can happen. No heat, no light, no movement, no life, only cold, stillness, silence. This is not science fiction. It's the consensus of physics that the universe left to its natural laws is heading toward a lonely, frozen grave. As Brian Cox, physicist and broadcaster, explained, eventually, everything will die. Stars will die, galaxies will die, and all that will be left is a thin mist of particles. And this isn't just speculation. It's supported by deep, measurable trends. The redshift of galaxies proves the universe is expanding. The cosmic microwave background shows us the echo of its hot, dense beginning. The second law of thermodynamics forecasts its eventual stillness. And yet, behold, I make all things new. Revelation 21:5. The final word from science may describe an end, but the final word from Scripture promises a new beginning. If the natural universe ends in darkness, then perhaps, supernaturally, something will begin in light. Not a continuation of what is, but a transformation into what will be. A divine paradox. Science shows us how everything decays, but faith tells us something deeper, that decay is not the final word. This is not simply religious optimism. It's a philosophical stance that resonates through centuries. Blaise Pascal, a physicist and Christian thinker, once wrote, "Man is but a reed, the most feeble thing in nature, but he is a thinking reed." Even in the face of a collapsing universe, our capacity for thought, for awe, for meaning, reveals something enduring. The universe, though vast, it's not eternal. But eternity itself is not a universe. Where science describes entropy, Scripture speaks of resurrection. Where cosmology predicts silence, the Bible promises a trumpet call. Because while the laws of physics may govern matter and motion, they cannot define meaning. As Viktor Frankl, neurologist and Holocaust survivor, observed in his landmark work, Man's Search for Meaning. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. And meaning, purpose, that lives outside the reach of entropy, beyond heat and gravity, beyond collapse and decay. The Apostle Paul wrote, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." 2 Corinthians 4:18. In this paradox lies the mystery that even as the universe wears down, there remains, within and beyond, a purpose that does not. From dust to glory. Imagine it. Billions of years from now, the stars are gone. The skies are black. No warmth remains. From a scientific perspective, this is entropy's conclusion. A sterile, frozen cosmos, echoing nothing but the silence of its own extinguished fire. It's what theoretical physicist Roger Penrose has described as conformal cyclic cosmology, a view in which the end of one universe sets the stage for another, through a mysterious kind of rebirth beyond comprehension. And yet, for all the elegance of that theory, science stops at the threshold of meaning. It cannot tell us what this rebirth means, only that the equations allow for it. Faith, however, dares to cross that threshold. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Revelation 21:1. A new cosmos, not born of decay, but of divine promise, not fading into silence, but singing a new song. It is here that Scripture and science might part ways in mechanics, but converge in mystery. Because the great story may not end in ashes, but in glory. Not in the darkness of abandonment, but in the brilliance of renewal. This is not just a new version of what was, but the beginning of what was always meant to be. The hidden hope in entropy. Here's the paradox. Entropy, the slow march toward death, is also what makes life possible. Without it, stars wouldn't shine, energy wouldn't flow, change would never come. Even the very breath in your lungs depends on this principle. A world that moves, transforms, and grows. As theoretical physicist Sean Carroll explains, you don't get life without entropy. The increase of entropy is what gives direction to time, what powers everything we do. Entropy is the backdrop against which meaning unfolds, a tension that allows us to perceive direction, movement, and purpose. Without entropy, time would be meaningless. There would be no arrow pointing from past to future, no unfolding, no story. And perhaps that's the key. that even the laws which predict decay are themselves the stage upon which transformation occurs. From the birth of stars in dense clouds of dust, to the metabolism of cells in your body, to the fading of light in a distant galaxy. Entropy drives it all. So even in the slow unraveling of the universe, we see not the absence of design, but the presence of a mind that uses change as a canvas. Each moment of loss woven into a greater pattern of gain. To science, entropy is a one-way street. To faith, it's a corridor that leads home. Because through entropy we were born, through entropy we learn, and through entropy we may yet be reborn into something more. When the universe ends, physicists speak of many endings. The big freeze, a slow, cold fade. The big rip, where space itself tears apart. The big crunch, a collapse back into singularity. Each theory reveals a different face of the same enigma, a cosmos governed by forces that it cannot escape. Energy runs out. Time stretches thin. Space breaks apart or folds in on itself. From motion to stillness, from light to darkness. But the Bible offers a fourth, the big revelation. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. Romans 8:19. Here, creation is not spiraling into oblivion. It is holding its breath. It groans, not in despair, but in anticipation, like a seed buried in cold soil, waiting for spring. This is not the end as extinguishing, but as unveiling, not a collapse, but a culmination. In this vision, the death of the cosmos is not a failure of energy. It is the labor pain of something divine being born. And so we stand at the edge of what science predicts and peer beyond into what faith dares to imagine. Because when the universe ends, the greatest story may just begin. And somewhere beyond the red shift, beyond the silence of a burnt-out cosmos, a final horizon gleams, where time itself bows and eternity begins. The end is just the beginning. This question, what comes after the end, does more than challenge our knowledge. It awakens something deeper within us, a longing, a hope, a whisper of eternity woven into the very fabric of our souls. Because the same God who will outlast the stars, who holds the universe in his hands, calls you by name, not merely to watch the cosmos unfold, but to belong to its story, to walk with him through time and beyond time itself. That is the hope. That is the promise. That is the wonder at the heart of it all. The Word and the universe. So what comes after the end? Not a void, not an absence, but something far greater than everything we've ever known. A realm beyond the confines of time and the grip of entropy. Imagine a place where light does not flicker and fade, but shines with a brilliance untouched by decay. Where life is not a fleeting breath, but a boundless, eternal flame. Here, the rhythms of the cosmos give way to a higher order, one not measured by clocks or cosmic cycles, but by the unending presence of love itself, where the presence of God is not distant or hidden, but a vibrant, radiant dwelling, a sanctuary where heaven and earth become one. as the Apostle John saw in his vision. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. Revelation 21:23. This is a light that transcends physics, a glory that defies entropy's final claim, a future where the laws of decay are rewritten and the promise of resurrection becomes reality. What comes after the universe ends is not silence, but the eternal song of a new creation, a divine harmony where sorrow and death are no more, and every tear is wiped away, because the end is not the final chapter, but the dawn of a story that has always been, waiting to be revealed in fullness and glory. So, is science wrong? Not at all. Science illuminates the intricate mechanics of the cosmos, revealing the delicate dance of particles, the slow unraveling of stars, and the inexorable march toward entropy's embrace. It shows us the universe winding down, measured in equations, observations, and cosmic timelines. But faith steps in where science reaches its limits, where meaning transcends measurement, where purpose defies prediction, where hope whispers in the silence beyond the stars. Together, science and spirit weave a fuller tapestry, one threaded with awe, mystery, and boundless hope. Because it is possible to witness the fading light of distant galaxies and still hold fast to the belief that something far greater is awakening, that beyond the death of stars and the cold finality of thermodynamics lies the dawn of something divine, a new creation bursting forth from the heart of eternity. As Albert Einstein once said, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. In that mysterious intersection, where science and spirit meet, we find not contradiction, but harmony, a sacred space where understanding deepens, and the universe reveals not only its how, but its why. You are part of the story. The universe will end. That much is certain. But you are more than mere matter, more than atoms that obey entropy's law, more than moments caught in the flow of time. You are a soul, a spark of the divine, called into a story that stretches far beyond the boundaries of space, beyond the light of the furthest star, beyond the final whisper of death itself. Science may describe the fate of galaxies and the slow fading of light, but it cannot measure the depths of your being, nor the eternal calling written into your heart, because you belong to a narrative that transcends cosmic endings. A story authored by the Creator, where beginnings and endings are but chapters in an eternal saga. So when the universe breathes its last, when the stars dim and the silence grows deep, He will still be there, and in Him, through the vast mystery that neither time nor entropy can erase, so will you. You are woven into the fabric of eternity, a living thread in the grand, unending story of God's love. The end is not the end. Here lies the profound paradox that both humbles the mind and stirs the depths of the soul, that the cold, unyielding facts of science, the inevitable winding down of all things, can still point us toward the warmest, most radiant truths of eternity. The death of a universe, the fading of every star, the final silence of all motion might not be a full stop, but rather the first breath of forever unfolding. Because in the cosmic dusk, beyond the last flicker of light born from fusion and fire, there may rise a light altogether different. A light eternal, radiant, with the presence of the divine, not made by atoms or energy, but by the one who holds all things in being, who is the source and the summit of all that ever was or will be. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, he declares, the eternal God who transcends time itself, and who waits to write the final chapter beyond all endings. So when the universe draws its last breath, we do not fear the silence. For in that sacred stillness, a new song begins. A song not bound by entropy, but by grace. Not extinguished by decay, but ignited by love. The end is not the end. It is the doorway to eternity's dawn. The end is just the beginning. This question, what comes after the end, does more than challenge our knowledge. It awakens something deeper within us, a longing, a hope, a whisper of eternity woven into the very fabric of our souls. Because the same God who will outlast the stars, who holds the universe in his hands, calls you by name, not merely to watch the cosmos unfold, but to belong to its story, to walk with him through time and beyond time itself. That is the hope, that is the promise, that is the wonder at the heart of it all, the Word and the universe. If this journey stirred something within you, we invite you to subscribe and walk alongside us. Here, at the Word and the universe, we explore the deepest mysteries of existence, where science reveals the mechanics and scripture reveals the meaning. Join us again as we wrestle with wonder, ask the greatest questions, and step together into the quiet light of eternity. Thank you for watching. May you walk today in the peaceful glow of forever.